What's up, y'all? This is Mo. Welcome back to the channel. I have a pretty special quad to go over with y'all today on our quest for 1S excellence. I present to you this little guy right here. This is a 1S CINEWHOOP. Really easy build, really easy conversion, made possible by TC Moore. I will get more into that later, but thank you, TC Moore. This is essentially a Meteor 75 Pro from BetaFPV Bind and Fly with one or two easy changes. One of them being this Flywoo expansive lens, this wider FOV lens that that increases our FOV of the 04, as that's one of the weak points of the system, at least the light system, is that we have a narrow FOV. This changes that. It expands the FOV. It gets our camera out in front, so we have a no duct in view image, and you'd be surprised how capable this little 1S CINEWHOOP is. I'm going to go over everything that you're going to need to build one if you're interested in building one. I'm going to go over some flight footage, and yeah, let's check it out. I think you're going to really like this one. Alright, y'all, here we are with some flight footage. Got a lot of flight footage to show you. I'll have some chapter markers down below if you want to go ahead and skip around here. But we're going to start off with the more aggressive flight utilizing a 1S 450 mAh. I wanted to showcase what the quad was still capable of doing despite us adding what is a fair bit of weight to it. But first things first, what is this quad? Why does it look like that? Why does it look like I'm looking at a CRT TV screen from 1995? Well, this is essentially a Meteor 75 Pro Bind and Fly from BetaFPV with just two simple modifications. One is a custom canopy designed by TC Moore. Thank you, Tom. This canopy allows the camera to be pushed forward in front of the ducts or close to the ducts, so we don't have any duct in view, which is especially useful when we combine it with the other change, the Flywoo wide angle lens adapter that slides right over the top of the 04 and gives us an expansive 155 degree field of view. Not an ad, by the way. That is not an ad. But with these two changes, we add a decent amount of weight to our 75 Pro, about 5 grams, but we gain what is essentially a pretty capable 1S CINEWHOOP. And paired with DJI 04, it's an awesome package for 1S. I was super surprised by it, and I'll get into the intricacies, the specifics of what makes it so good as we explore these flights together. But one of the first things I want to go over is, or stress, I guess, that this is a really easy conversion. This is a stock Meteor 75 Pro. I changed the props to HQ 45s because I like those props, but you don't have to do that. It's the same tune, same motors, FC frame, all that stuff. It's, again, just a different canopy and the Flywoo lens adapter for this wide FOV. So that's it. So if you wanted to do this conversion, if you were looking for something like this, it is very easy to do. Again, I didn't touch the PID tune. Could the PID tune be better? Yeah, probably. But you don't need to. You don't need to change it, which is the important part, especially for people that aren't as experienced or don't like PID tuning. You don't have to do much. One little tip about it, though, because the weight is added in the front of the quad, that camera, it kind of pushes the weight forward and our center of gravity kind of gets a little bit thrown off. I do recommend moving the battery further back in the tray. This kind of equalizes the weight, brings that center of gravity back to the middle. And if you want to use a lighter battery like I am here, a 450, we regain some of the weight that we added in that. Usually we're flying a 550 battery on this platform. But it's not necessarily needed because check out that flight time. Aggressive flying, extra 5 grams, almost 3 minutes on a 450. What? Is that real? Yeah, it's real. Let's see if it recovers to 3.5. Probably will once we're in low power. Yep. So what is that? About 3 minutes of fairly aggressive flying on a 450. Not too bad. Next, we're taking a look at an endurance flight, or basically how long can I keep this quad in the air for, kind of just cruising around on a 550 milliamp lava battery, the recommended battery for the Meteor 75 Pro. And I've been up in the air for 4 minutes and 35 seconds of this type of cruising, which is just insane on a 1S platform. Super efficient. I actually don't even know where that efficiency came from. But another benefit of this platform here is, you're going to want to stabilize the footage, especially, we're looking at the wide angle lens here. That's not exactly pretty. But once we stabilize it, and I'll have footage later, there was also some footage in the intro, it looks great. And this canopy ensures that the footage can be stabilized. I don't know why it's happening. I think it's because the camera's so far removed from the vibrations. It's got the extra dampening of the TPU and the mount. But you can stab your footage, which is kind of difficult sometimes for the 04. That's another benefit of this. I over-discharged my battery. Should have landed about 18 seconds ago here, but we do recover, not quite to 3.5, but that's an insane flight time for a 1S battery. And finally, you're going to get a 200% speed range test. This is more kind of speaking on the 04's capabilities on 1S, not necessarily this conversion here, but I was surprised at this range, man. I haven't really pushed the 04. I'm flying on 50 hertz packet rate ELRS, so that's not a concern. Dynamic power. I am sitting off to the left, or about to pass directly behind myself when I get into this open field. Now, this quad is directly behind me, separated by a field of trees. I tried to make this exact pass next to the school here on a 1200 milliwatt walk snail system. Could not make it. DJI, okay, it dips to 8 megabits per second, but it was so easily flyable. I flew through that without an issue. I was super surprised there, and thinking that this is on a 1S platform is just mind-boggling. I'm sitting right to the left by the playground there, so that's where I'm seated, and I'm facing this direction. I could fly anywhere I wanted to around the park, and mixed with the 550 mAh battery, we can get like over 4 minutes of flight time, no problem. And here's an example of the stabilization with the wide-angle lens. Looks pretty darn good to me. This is like 5% stabilization, even though we're getting blown around here. It does not matter. The canopy design is mitigating vibrations. It's not reaching the camera, and all my experience with this canopy, I have had no 04 shake, that dreaded 04 stabilization shake. It just doesn't make it. Here's another stabilization example. Looking pretty good, looking pretty stable, looking pretty wide, if I do say so myself. It's so awesome to fly on here. Back to 200%, we're just going to come back. So that was hopefully just a small range example of the 04. Light system, you can go a lot further than that, especially if you're in the air. Whether or not you should be doing that is one thing, but this thing can fly as far as you would want it to, which just makes for an awesome package for a little CINEWHOOP here. All right, so I have a couple of quick things that I want to go over if you are looking to build up one of these. Now, this is a fairly simple conversion, as it's pretty much just the Meteor 75 Pro from BetaFPV with a different canopy, but just a couple of things I want to mention that will make your life easier should you want to build it. The first and most important thing is you need to purchase something additionally if you're looking to do this conversion. And that is this, the Flywoo 04 wide-angle lens. This is what we have up front, and that is what the print is designed to work with. Now, I'm not going to go over, I'm not going to review this lens kit here, but you can look up some videos. It just increases our FOV, makes it a little bit more cinematic looking. The stock FOV on the 04 is a little bit narrow, so that's why we decided to do that here. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. That's something you have to buy if you want to do this. Other than that, this is all stock. I changed the props. That's not a necessity, but that is something I did. I'll get into that later. But the only thing we added here is this custom canopy designed by TC Moore. Thank you, TC Moore. This gets our camera out in front of the ducks, still slightly protected. And, so this way we don't have any duct in view. It's a great print. How I secured this, what I recommend you doing, and this is the Meteor 75 Pro frame, is we have the 25 by 25 mounting that secures the FC in the 04, but they also have this 30 by 30 mounting, smaller holes. I screwed from the bottom up through maybe about halfway through the print. I didn't have screws long enough to go all the way, but that was enough to keep it steady. Yeah, so I recommend you do that. Screw it from the bottom. This way you don't have to have super duper long screws, and it holds it just fine. Another thing that I did that I don't think you need to do, but just going over it, there's a little piece of double-sided sticky tape under the camera there. It's a little rubber 3M double-sided sticky tape. I did that originally because my camera was sagging down a bit. I think I had an earlier print. Tom has since fixed that. But this way it kind of keeps the camera in place. I think it also helped with vibration dampening. So if you like to do that, you can. I think Tom also has an additional print that kind of fits in that space that, you know, you can print the TPU that acts as a similar vibration dampener. So there's that as well. The battery, so I use a 450 battery. You can also use 550s for greater flight times here, but I get about 3 minutes or more with the 450, which is enough. But one thing that has changed on this build is that weight is a little bit further up than it was prior. So our weight distribution has changed. What I recommend doing is when you seat the battery in the tray, instead of pushing it all the way up, which is what I usually do when I fly traditional whoops, I just keep it a little bit further back in the tray, kind of bringing that center of gravity back to the middle and improving our flight performance and our flight characteristics, because all the flights you've seen in this video are on default PIDs. That means the same tune you get on your Meteor 75 Pro is how you will have seen this quad fly. I do recommend you change it if you have the know-how to do so, because we did add weight, and like I said, it is distributed differently. So, you know, if you know how to tune, you can make it even better, but in its stock form, it is still pretty darn good. And yeah, I will try to include this little protector, this Hex AIO cover. I grabbed this from Ciati's Discord a while ago, so I'll try to find the link to that. This is not a necessity. I did it more for the looks than anything else. Not really sure we're protecting much there, but other than that, that is a pretty straightforward build and a pretty cool little 1S CINEWHOOP. And that about wraps it up here for this awesome little 1S CINEWHOOP. Super easy build, and thanks again to TC Moore for designing the print. You know, I am a huge proponent, a huge fan of 1S. I like how quiet the platform is. I like how safe, how easy it is to charge batteries, you know, how cheap it is, how light the all-up weight ends up being on these platforms. But again, there are some limitations, and most of these digital quads, these heavier quads, are always going to fly a little bit better on 2S. But that being said, you know, if you're like me and you like the positives of 1S, you know, you like being more quiet and safe, this is an awesome platform, an easy conversion for what it is, especially if you're interested in having that type of cruising CINEWHOOP, you know, this beautiful 4K footage. Super easy way to do it. And just as a heads up, you do have to buy something additionally if you want to make this build work. That's going to be the Flywoo wide angle lens here. So it's not a one-for-one conversion, so keep that in mind. But if you are interested in building one up, I got some tips for you at the desk portion of the video. I'm going to send you back there to check that out. But yeah, other than that, awesome platform. 1S continues to impress. 1S is the friendly face of FPV. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.